Hey YouTubers, it's Charlie. So today we're going to talk about Gorilla Grodd because Andrew Kreisberg, one of the executive producers on The Flash show, tweeted this message in honor of Jeff Johns' birthday last week. It almost went unnoticed because he doesn't have a lot of followers, but it's a really big deal. If you've never had the chance to meet Jeff Johns, he's just one of the most famous Flash comics writers, and he's very involved in the TV show whenever he's not off writing other comic books or advising on the DC movies. He's like chief creative at DC, so he does like everything that they do. Movies, TV shows, comics. This video is mostly going to be a history of Grodd in the comics, but I will talk about how I think the show is going to use him. If you've never read the comics or you've never seen any of the animated DC shows, most people see Gorilla Grodd and they think he's like the Caesar of the DC universe, like a super smart gorilla who ushers in a new age for gorilla kind. In reality, he's more like Koba. Solivar is more like Caesar. Don't worry, I'll explain who Solivar is. It's just like when you start talking about Grodd, there's a lot of Grodd-specific characters that you have to talk about also, and Solivar is the biggest one. They're like the yin and the yang of gorilla society in the DC universe. So rewind to last year, we all saw the Flash pilot, there was a Gorilla Grodd Easter egg at the end, but we really didn't know what it meant. And it seemed like it was just meant to be an offhanded joke, just like an inside joke for comic book fans. Fast forward to now, so much has changed, the show has become so popular that Warner Brothers has given the thumbs up to bringing him on the show in a major story. It just goes to show you how plans can change over time based on the popularity of stuff. So if The Flash continues to be super popular, they will probably be able to do all kinds of stuff we can't even think about right now. The character Gorilla Grodd was created by Carmine Infantino. He's a really notable DC creator. I mean, he's done Marvel stuff too, but he created most of the Rogues and a whole bunch of other minor DC Comics characters. The first time Grodd appeared in the comics was Flash number 106 in 1959. Initially, he was a normal gorilla living in the African jungle with his family until a radioactive meteorite crashed nearby and imbued him with hyperintelligence and telepathy. It wasn't just him either. His comrade, or his fellow gorilla, Solivar, also got the same powers. Later, the retcon turned the meteor into a crashed radioactive ship, and there was an alien. But before the retcon, the meteor that gave him his powers was also the same meteor that gave Green Lantern villain Hector Hammond his powers. I know there's always a lot of crossover between Green Lantern stuff and Flash stuff. Every time we visit the Ferris airfield, I always wonder if they're going to bring Carol Ferris on the Flash at some point. I feel like she's much more realistic than actually bringing Hal Jordan on, but fingers crossed. So just like Superman and all the other DC characters, the scope of Grodd's powers, like his superpowers, has changed over time. Just think of his powers as being psionic based. Thus far, he's been able to take over other people's minds, create telekinetic force beams, transmute matter, transfer his consciousness into other bodies. He has super strength, like way beyond that of normal gorillas. Like gorillas are already super strong, but he's super strong beyond that. He's almost been able to beat Kalibak, the son of Darkseid, just to give you an idea of the scope of his strength, physical strength. And slightly grosser, he's shown that he's been able to absorb intelligence by eating other people's brains. I'm gonna go ahead and take a wild stab and say the TV show probably not gonna show him eating some red shirt scientist's brain. It does add a lot of new context to this new 52 cover though. I always love covers like this. Flash brains, so tasty. So Grodd is mostly known as a Flash villain, but inside Gorilla Society, Solivar is his chief rival. They have the same kind of epic rivalry that the Flash and the Reverse Flash have. Solivar is usually presented as being the nicer one, Grodd as being the crazier one. That's why if you saw the Rise of the Planet of the Apes or any of the Planet of the Apes films, Caesar is more like Solivar, and Grodd is more like Koba. One of the earliest Grodd storylines explained how he and Solivar and the other gorillas took the alien in the crash ship, made him their leader, then they worked together to create Gorilla City. That's like a super advanced city of intelligent apes, hidden from the rest of the world. If you're a big fan of the Marvel Universe, it's a lot like the Inhumans, where they have a secret city that no one else knows about. So eventually explorers stumbled on Gorilla City. Grodd forces one of them to kill the alien leader, then takes power with the intention of using all the gorillas to take over the world. Solivar uses his telepathy to warn Barry Allen, who's able to defeat Grodd. If you want to read more about Grodd in the comics, some of his best storylines are Dog Days. That's the first time Grodd meets the Wally West Flash. He comes to Central City, makes all the pets and animals super smart, and tries to take over, but Wally is able to defeat him with the help of Pied Piper and Vixen, which is kind of funny because Pied Piper is going to be on the TV show this week, and Vixen is getting her own animated show. Then there's Gorilla City Conquest. That's another attempt to kill Solivar and take over Gorilla City with the intention of taking over the world. Then there's the creation of a new Reverse Flash. That story actually, they might weave that into season 1 of The Flash. So if that ends up happening, I'll explain that story a little bit better. but Grodd is directly responsible for the creation of the Hunter Solomon Reverse Flash. He engineered this massive prison break from Iron Heights, and in the process decides to torture Wally West's friends, and Hunter Solomon just ends up being a casualty of that. Just raise your hand wherever you're sitting at your computer. I know we all can't see each other. Just raise your hand if you think that they might try that storyline. Another really awesome story is Rogue War. He teamed up with the Rogues to fight the Flash. Mirror Master busts him out in the middle of a big fight. It's really awesome. I know everyone's really wondering if Mirror Master is going to be on the show. Then during the Black Ring storyline, you get to see him go up against Lex Luthor, and he eats a ton of brains with this giant spoon. Nice and gross. Nice and gross. Then during Flashpoint, in the alternate timeline created by the Reverse Flash, Grodd successfully overthrew Solovar to take control of Gorilla City and use them to conquer Africa. You can totally read the New 52 stories that they've done. They're a little more fantastical. They involve Gorilla, Speed Force clerics, and Grodd eating his father's brains. It's just a little crazier. So now let's just talk a little bit about what the show might do with the character, just based on what we've seen so far. So let's look at our checklist. So we know that Harrison Wells is directly responsible for the creation of Grodd, for him getting super smart. In keeping with Season 1's revenge theme of, Star Labs people coming back wanting to kill Harrison Wells, Grodd could always return super smart and looking for revenge. Season 1's a lot of origin stories for all the characters, so really what I'd like to see, if they're going to go full-on Grodd this year, is at the very end, just get a teaser for Gorilla City. Like Grodd escapes and starts to create Gorilla City. Or maybe even a teaser for Solovar. It's kind of expensive to do CG for apes, so I'm not expecting like a whole army of gorillas anytime soon. How badass would that be though, for the Flash to go visit Gorilla City in Season 2? I think our biggest question right now is what is he going to look like? Is it going to be CG? Is it going to be a combo? Is it going to look like Rise of the Planet of the Apes? I mean, I can definitely say they don't have the kind of money that Rise of the Planet of the Apes has, so it's probably going to be a mixture of what Andy Serkis looked like with practical effects. Arrow's kind of taking the same approach with Ray Palmer's Atom suit. Mark Guggenheim said that on that show they wanted to differentiate his suit from Iron Man's, and the Iron Man suit has all these CG moving parts, so they turned a lot of those into practical elements. I don't have any idea what it's actually going to look like, but we will probably get a teaser for that in the next couple of episodes. Really, I'm just blown away that they're doing Grodd so soon. I never expected this. This is probably one of the biggest surprises of Season 1. Greg Berlanti, kind of the person behind all these DC adaptations at Warner Brothers, said that he really had to fight to keep that Easter egg in the first episode. He said that Warner Brothers wanted to take it out, but they were like, no, leave it in. It'll be really fun for comic book fans. Cut to now, where it's become so successful that they said, yeah, of course you can do Gorilla Grodd. Bring him in. Do a big story. It's just a good example of how plans can change based on success. It's the same situation with the Firestorm character, and it kind of makes you wonder what kind of craziness they're going to try in Season 2. Really, I think what I'd like to see them do is Flash of Two Worlds. That's also a Carmine Infantino story. If you haven't read the comics, that's just like where the Flash stories get into multiverse territory. So we haven't broached time travel yet. We'll do time travel, then we'll probably get into multiverse stuff. So here's my big question for you guys. How do you want to see the show use Gorilla Grodd, and do you want to see him team up with the Rogues at some point? Don't forget, this week's episode is actually going to be the debut of Pied Piper, so whenever I post my review for that, I'll also explain his backstory a little. He's one of the weirder Flash villains, but I really like what the TV show's done with him. Be sure to subscribe to get that. There's also been a whole bunch of other news today too. So Fox just confirmed they're developing a live-action X-Men series. No word on who would star in it or which characters they'd use. I'm not really sure if I'm going to have time to make a video for it, so just feel free to talk about it in the comments on this video. We can all go rewatch the animated series on Netflix after Gotham tonight. Really big thank you to everyone that's been submitting fan subs for my videos. You have no idea how much it's helped. It's been awesome. You guys are amazing. Right now, while you guys wait for Gotham to start, you can click here to catch up on the show, and you can click here for last week's Flash episode. Thank you so much for watching. So big gorilla high five. I'll see you guys tonight.